Tiger Woods didn't just dominate golf, he rewrote what dominance looked like. At his peak, he was simply better than the rest. What he was doing wasn't normal, and fans saw that through every win. But this raises a deeper question. Was Tiger Woods simply the most gifted golfer ever, or was he the result of something far more deliberate? Because long before the majors, before the records, and before the 82 PGA Tour wins, a system was already in place. A system built by his parents, reinforced by coaches, echoed by the media, and eventually improved by Tiger himself. This is how that system was built, why it worked so well, and the downsides it would create. When Eldrick Woods was born in 1975 in Cypress, California, his father, Earl, had no intention of calling him that. He gave his son a different name, one with meaning, Tiger. That name was a tribute to Lieutenant Colonel Vuong Dang Phong of the South Vietnamese Army, a man Earl deeply admired. He called him Tiger for his fearless, relentless approach to combat. While a name alone doesn't determine destiny, this one carried an early narrative of strength. At just 6 months old, Earl had already begun bringing his son into the garage to watch him hit golf balls. It's been estimated that by age 1, Tiger had spent between 100 and 200 hours observing his father do that. From a modern neuroscience perspective, this kind of exposure may not have been as passive as it looks. In the Talent Code, Daniel Coyle explains that deeply ingrained skills begins with myelination, the insulating of neural circuits through repeated exposure. In infants, mirror neurons fire as if the child is performing the action themselves. In effect, Tiger was neurologically rehearsing golf well before he could walk. The results were startling. Earl recalled 11-month-old Tiger climbing out of his high chair, grabbing a small golf club and swinging at a ball, sending it into the net. It sounds exaggerated until you consider how many hours Tiger had spent watching the motion. Golf didn't remain confined to the garage. Young Tiger carried a small putter from room to room, replacing the typical blanket or teddy bear. In The Power of Habit, Charles Duhigg explains that objects associated with comfort become powerful psychological anchors. For Tiger, the golf club became a source of calm. Where others might feel anxiety, golf felt safe. As a child, his world revolved around his parents. Earl became his golf mentor, his closest companion, and the architect of a larger vision. He didn't discipline Eldrick in the traditional sense. Instead, he focused on earning his respect. In Training a Tiger, Earl wrote, "Understand that love is given and respect earned. The parent must start as early as possible to earn that respect." From the earliest years, Earl told Tiger he was special, gifted, and destined. Developmental psychology shows that young children lack a fully developed critical filter, meaning repeated messages from authority figures are more likely to be internalized rather than questioned. When Earl told young Tiger he was already an extraordinary golfer, those words were accepted. His son experimented with other sports, but golf became his center, and his skills advanced rapidly. At 2 years old, Tiger appeared on the Mike Douglas Show, calmly demonstrating abilities that seemed impossible for his age. A few years later, he appeared on That's Incredible. Earl's training was working, and it wasn't accidental. He had taught and raised children from a previous marriage, which had prepared him for Tiger. He went further, describing his role in spiritual terms. "The Almighty entrusted this precious child to me. He is orchestrating this entire scenario and has a plan to utilize Tiger to make an impact on the world." He didn't believe Tiger was destined to dominate golf alone. He believed his son would transcend it, even comparing his potential impact to Gandhi's. With that belief in mind, Earl made sure to stay grounded, introducing structure and discipline. Tiger learned to visualize shots, plan outcomes, and rely on routine. what Earl, drawing on his military background, called a standard operating procedure. Early on, he framed golf as fun, but when Tiger was old enough, that tone changed. He started something called the Woods Finishing School. He warned his son it would be intense, and it was, describing it as psychological warfare. Dropping clubs mid-swing, making noises during putts, hurling insults and racial slurs at his son, basically introducing chaos. The goal wasn't cruelty, it was conditioning. They agreed on a code word that Tiger could use if it became too much, though he never used it. The future Grand Slam champion later explained that training pushed him to the edge of quitting, but critically taught him how to block out everything and focus. From a performance standpoint, the effects of the Woods Finishing School are undeniable. Author Robert Greene in Mastery describes the important role of controlled stress in the development of elite performers. Earl created an environment where pressure was normal, something so critical for a professional athlete. Over time, all those hours of golf accumulated quickly. In Outliers, Malcolm Gladwell popularized the 10,000-hour rule. It suggested that Woods may have reached it by around age 13. In Tiger's late teens, Earl's system was fully installed. Skill, confidence, obsession, and expectation had emerged. On April 13, 1997, Earl watched as his son, at just 21 years old, won the Masters by a record 12 strokes.
There it is, a win for the ages.
Kultida Woods is rarely discussed as much as her husband when it comes to Tiger's rise. Earl was louder and more public in explaining his vision for his son, but Tiger's mom played a key role in shaping his dominance. First, she had to lay some groundwork as his disciplinarian. In the Tiger Woods book, Jeff Benedict writes that when he was young, his mother laid down a clear rule. "You will never ever ruin my reputation as a parent." That approach stood in contrast to Earl's role as mentor, motivator, and best friend, although the two were on the same page as it came to developing their son. One small but telling example came in kindergarten. Kultida spoke directly with his teacher and gave a simple instruction: address her son as Tiger, not Eldrick. It seems minor, but it mattered. From the start, Eldrick Woods was being shaped into Tiger Woods. That identity shift wasn't accidental, it was reinforced daily by both parents. Speaking of school, Tiger was shy in the classroom. Golf had become his psychological safe zone, and away from it, anxiety surfaced. So much so that he developed a noticeable stutter. Interestingly, except when speaking about golf. That contrast reveals a lot about his upbringing. Part of this anxiety came from how different he was from his peers. By elementary school, Woods had already been on national television, signed autographs, and traveled extensively. When he wasn't on TV or golfing, his mom made sure everything else was taken care of. Tiger didn't worry about chores, kid jobs, or distractions, which allowed him to focus on golf. That narrowness is important. Gary Keller writes in The One Thing, "Success demands singleness of purpose. You need to do fewer things for greater effect, rather than doing more things with side effects." Kultida created exactly that environment. Removing competing priorities, friends, hobbies, responsibilities, helped accelerate his golf progress. It also created a young player who learned that his needs came first. That self-centeredness wasn't accidental, it was functional, and Kultida played a critical role in Tiger's overall mental development and self-belief, which is essential for greatness. Tiger's belief was tied directly to winning, saying, "There's no feeling I've found that matches the feeling that I've beaten everybody." Kultida rarely saw her son lose, but when he did, she hated it. And when it happened, she didn't offer comfort, she offered instruction. You have to go for the throat. If you're friendly, they come back and beat your ass. So kill them, take their heart. Woods had this to say about what his mother taught him. "Mom said I might as well beat the other guys by as many shots as I could. There was a difference between winning and beating. I wanted to win, sure, but I also wanted to win by as many shots as possible. She liked me to stomp on the other players." From a very young age, his mom instilled in Tiger the belief that he was better and that he was supposed to prove it. Thanks to his parents, Tiger had the right tools to become a champion. Both Earl and Kultida provided him with a successful environment where he developed discipline, identity, focus, and a ruthless approach to competition. Now it was time for the media to amplify the mythology and coaches to shape the mechanics. By the time Tiger was 5 years old, the media had already begun complimenting him. Every TV appearance, every headline, every segment that called him a prodigy reinforced the same message he was hearing at home. In Mindset, psychologist Carol Dweck explains that when children receive repeated praise, especially labels like gifted or superstar, they don't just hear encouragement, they internalize an identity. Dweck writes that this creates what she calls a fixed identity script. In Tiger's case, the media wasn't simply praising him, it was naming him child prodigy, golf's next superstar, the future of the sport. That kind of public praise becomes identity fuel. Tiger wasn't just playing golf well, he was playing a role the world had already assigned to him. This would prove to be incredibly powerful. But identity alone wasn't enough. His swing still needed to match the expectations being placed on him. There's a common misconception that early on, Earl Woods was Tiger's primary swing coach. According to Tiger himself, swing instruction wasn't Earl's specialty. That role belonged to others. At 4 years old, he began working with his first instructor, Rudy Duran, who ran the junior program at Hartwell Golf Course in Long Beach, California. At just 4 years old, Tiger was already driving the ball nearly 50 yards with a controlled draw, and Rudy had never seen a 4-year-old do that. He believed he was watching a prodigy. So Rudy made sure to keep practice fun yet challenging, encouraging Tiger to play aggressively and shoot low. For 6 years, Duran never charged the family his $15 30-minute lesson fee, assuring money would never be a barrier. In 1986, Duran took a job managing golf courses, ending their regular work together. Next came John Anselmo. John knew immediately how advanced Tiger's game was. Of the 10-year-old Woods, he said, "He's a tour player in a boy's body. He just needs to grow into it." Woods was already completely self-motivated, so Anselmo's job wasn't to push him, and instead focused on his swing mechanics. Less hands and wrists, more lower body and big muscles. In 1993, John was diagnosed with cancer and had to step away from coaching for much of the year. That absence set the stage for the most famous coaching partnership in golf history. In 1992, Tiger lost in the second round of the U.S. Amateur to Tim Herron. At 16 years old, losing to a 23-year-old wasn't surprising, but when he lost the following year, changes were needed, so he began working with Butch Harmon. Like his coaches before him, he didn't invoice Tiger until he turned professional. On meeting Woods, Harmon said, "When I first saw Tiger swing a club, there was a tremendous amount of natural, raw talent. He was like a trophy that needed to be polished." Harmon guided Tiger through his amateur years and stood beside him at the 1997 Masters, where Tiger shattered golf's reality with a 12-shot victory. Yet, even then, Woods saw flaws. Harmon recalled, "I agreed with Tiger about the flaws, but I wanted to do it a piece at a time. He wanted to do it all at once. I told him it would be hard to play through it, and that he might want to take a year off. Tiger refused. In 1998, he struggled and only won once, but then the changes worked. He won 8 times in 1999, then followed with 9 wins, including 3 majors in 2000. Butch helped mold his swing into what some call the best golf swing ever seen. Then it happened. In August 2002, just over a month after winning the US Open, Woods parted ways with Harmon. Why the split? A few reasons. Injuries were piling up, especially in Tiger's left knee. Also, apparently, he disliked Harmon drawing in crowds while he worked on his game. Interestingly, these claims came from his next swing coach, Hank Haney. In his controversial book, The Big Miss, which broke golf's unwritten coach-player code, Haney explained his swing philosophy. All good things in the golf swing flow from achieving the correct swing plane. That became the foundation of their work together. It looked different, but for Tiger, this was just another swing rebuild. Few players could survive that big of change, especially with all the noise surrounding his departure from Butch, but Tiger did. From 2004 to 2010, working with Haney, Woods won 31 PGA Tour events and 6 major championships. Later came Sean Foley, then Chris Como, but by then, that was a very different Tiger Woods. Though every instructor, no matter how skilled, eventually ran into the same reality, Tiger didn't want to just execute a system. He wanted to understand it, control it, and improve it himself. By the time Tiger Woods reached the top of golf, he wasn't just the product of his parents, his coaches, or the media. He was a product of himself. Those early influences mattered. Without them, this version of Tiger never would have existed. But once the system was built, Tiger took control of it, refined it, and intensified it. Earl Woods wanted his son to become something legendary, bigger than golf, bigger than the sport, to change the world. Tiger's goal was quieter. In his own words, he wanted to be the best golfer he could possibly be. This distinction matters. By 1999, he was already the best golfer in the world. 8 wins in a season. For most pros, that's the peak. He knew what greatness looked like both in his own game and in Jack Nicklaus's achievements. But what drove him day to day wasn't the title of greatest ever. It was the belief that there was always another level he hadn't reached yet. History was the reference point. Self-improvement was the system. Being the best in the world is a destination. Being the best you can be is a process, and processes don't end. That mindset became Tiger's internal engine. You can see it clearly in his decision to leave Butch. After the Tiger Slam, Harmon's approach shifted towards maintenance. Protect what works. From a coaching standpoint, it made perfect sense. Tiger had just won all 4 majors in a row, as well as the so-called 5th major at the Players' Championship. Changing anything was risky, but maintenance felt like stagnation, even if it meant tearing everything down and rebuilding. Whether leaving Butch was the right move, most would say it wasn't. Forward progress mattered more than comfort. That instinct reflected something deeper, a belief that satisfaction was dangerous. Motivational speaker Bob Proctor once said, "You should never be satisfied. Happy, but not satisfied." For Tiger, dissatisfaction wasn't a weakness. It was built into the system. It drove every swing change, every rebuild, every reinvention. That system showed itself most clearly in his practice. Hank Haney describes Tiger's focus as unlike anything he had ever seen. He never hit balls without purpose, and every shot had intent. After 20 or 25, he would stop, sit quietly, and think. When Haney finally asked him what he was doing, Tiger answered simply, "I'm thinking about what we just did." That's deliberate practice, the kind Jeff Colvin describes in Talent is Overrated. It's not just hammering golf balls with repetition for comfort, but work aimed directly at weaknesses. Discomfort wasn't avoided, it was required. Woods engineered his body the same way. He saw himself as an athlete who plays golf. Strength training wasn't optional, it was daily, often twice a day, and it was anything but comfortable. Influenced by his father, Tiger pushed into military-style training, hand-to-hand combat, wind tunnels, long runs in combat boots, multi-day sessions with Navy SEALs, and dozens of parachute jumps in a single week. To him, his training wasn't reckless, it was preparation. He believed that if he could physically or mentally endure more than anyone else, he would separate himself when it mattered most. That mental side may have been his greatest weapon. As a child, when his parents fought, he could shut off his emotions. On the course, he could numb fear, pain, pressure, even death threats, and still perform at the highest level. And it showed externally as well. Confidence followed him everywhere. Everybody felt it. This "I'm the best" self-belief didn't come from talent alone or the results they produced. It was reinforced daily by everyone, including himself. Even at a young age, Tiger chose trophies over toys, he wrote affirmations on the walls of his bedroom, and listened to self-development tapes instead of music. This wasn't random, nor was how he approached competition. When there were great players around him who could threaten his position at the top, he leaned into golf as a psychological contest, using that to his advantage, making sure to keep elite competitors at a distance, players like VJ, Ernie, and Phil. Sometimes it was through silence, sometimes it was through distant trash talk, like calling Phil Mickelson Phony Phil before he finally won the Masters. They were all playing on Tiger's terms and they knew it. Winning was never a surprise. Lanny Bashman, a two-time Olympic champion sports shooter, wrote in his book, With Winning in Mind, The Mental Management System, the primary thing that separates winners from the others is the way they think. Winners are convinced they will finish first. The others hope to finish first. That is a key distinction, one that Tiger lived by. Winning wasn't celebrated because, in his mind, it wasn't surprising, it was expected. On January 23, 2005, Woods won the Buick Invitational at Torrey Pines. Elin, his wife at the time, was thrilled. It was his first win since their wedding. Back at the hotel, she leaned into him and said, "We have to celebrate. What should we do?" When she worked for the Parneviks as a nanny, they used to throw a party every time Jesper won. Tiger didn't pause. "That's not what we do," he said. "I'm not Jesper. We are supposed to win." When you add up all these influences, systems, physical and mental training, raw athleticism, deep self-belief, and a knowing that you're the best, you get Tiger Woods. Or said in another way, you get someone who's fully engineered to dominate at golf. But systems built only to win tournaments don't prepare you for much else.
I have made you question who I am and how I could have done the things I did.
From a young age, Tiger grew up in a place where results mattered most. When he performed well, things were calm. Over time, golf became more than a game. It became the means by which stability was maintained. That kind of environment taught him how to deliver outcomes, and Tiger became very good at that. As he got older, the system followed him. He knew he was the best, and the results showed that. He trained longer than everyone else and pushed through pain. Injuries weren't signals to slow down. They were problems to work around. Rest felt risky. Slowing down felt like falling behind. This approach created dominance on the course. Off the course was a different story. From most reports, Tiger stayed guarded. He kept people at a distance. He didn't explain himself much, and he didn't invite most people into his inner world. Not because he was cold, but because openness was never part of what they built. His parents managed access, protected him, and limited outside influence. Friends were few. Trust was narrow. As a result, two versions of Tiger existed. On the course, focused, confident, dominant. Off the course, reserved, distant, unsure how to connect. This wasn't accidental, it was functional. The system rewarded control rather than emotional awareness. Gratitude wasn't emphasized, apologies weren't practiced, needs came first, other people existed around the edges. That self-focus protected performance, but it also created isolation. Physically, he was wired to keep moving forward with his game, despite injuries. When his body began to break down under constant strain, each setback carried more weight than the last. Then there was a big structural shift. When Earl passed away, Tiger lost the man who had shaped many of the rules, reinforced the standards, and anchored his identity. Eventually, his personal life reached a breaking point. Tiger would lose much of what once defined him, including his image and sense of invincibility. You can design greatness, you can manufacture control, but if the system leaves no room for being human, that cost doesn't disappear, it just shows up later. But here's the paradox. The same system that caused the turmoil also made survival possible. Tiger Woods had been trained to endure discomfort, to rebuild, to suffer quietly and keep moving forward. When everything collapsed, the system didn't disappear, it redirected. It was now also being used to rebuild his life. Tiger Woods didn't need outside motivation. From childhood, effort was normal, pressure was familiar, winning wasn't a peak, it was the baseline. By the time he reached the PGA Tour, he wasn't competing the way others were. He wasn't hoping to win. Tiger was executing something that had been rehearsed for decades. That's why he could rebuild his swing multiple times. It's why he could dominate his era. It's why personal setbacks didn't end his career. They triggered reconstruction. He didn't dream or hope of being a professional golfer. It was going to happen. Everybody who was involved knew it. The parents, the coaches, the media reinforcement, the routines, the standards, and most importantly, Tiger Woods himself. Together, they created a golfer who, for a time, was completely unstoppable. You don't have to admire it. You don't have to copy it. And we can even say that it had some negative consequences, but you can't deny it worked. He is worth over $1 billion, is an 82 PGA tournament, 15 major Grand Slam winner, and has inspired millions of people to become better at golf, or really anything. Tiger Woods wasn't just the greatest golfer of his generation. He is proof of what happens when rare athletic talent meets total environmental alignment. And that's what made his rise to the top inevitable.
The return to glory